is it just going to get worse for him? Today what I wanted to do was talk about a comment made by Nick Kypreos and Justin Bourne in the most recent edition of Real Kyper and Bourne. Obviously, very self-explanatory show with their names in the title, but when it comes to Kyper and Bourne, obviously it's Sportsnet, it's Toronto-based, they talk about the Leafs, they talk about other NHL stories, but I wanted to take a focus on one of the thoughts that they had in regards to former Toronto Maple Leafs captain John Tavares. And to help us out, we're going over onto this article published on hockeypatrol.com by Chris Garrix. The article's title reads this: John Tavares could tempt a contending team at the trade deadline. Okay, where are we going with this? Before we dive into the piece, let's talk about Johnny T. 34 years old, 6'1", 212, left-handed guy, signed on till the end of this season at $11 million a year. The contract expires in about 9 months or so Johnny T will have to decide whether or not he wants to re-sign with the Maple Leafs, or he wants to go to free agency, he wants to go elsewhere, maybe he returns back to the island, who really knows? It's been a long tenure for Johnny T as the Toronto Maple Leafs alternate and eventual captain, serving should have been 6, but ended up only being 5 full seasons as the captain of the Maple Leafs before getting that title stripped from him this summer. Now, John Tavares went from 80 points in 80 games played 2 seasons ago to 2 points in 3 games now, after featuring a slight decline in point production in 2023-2024. I won't say that John Tavares is significantly worse of a hockey player compared to where he was a few seasons ago, but it's definitely evident that age is catching up to the guy. He certainly doesn't have the same mobility as he did in 2018, for example, in his first year with Toronto, when he had 47 goals and 88 points. And, of course, it comes with the territory when you sign guys on to extremely long-term deals. But after seeing the captaincy stripped away from Johnny T, given to Austin Matthews, and now we're going to get into some of the things that Nick Kypreos said, you're seeing more of this stuff happen to John Tavares, it really begs the question as to where his short-term future will go. Let's go out there and read this article on hockeypatrol.com. Nick Kypreos said this on his podcast. It was written out and transcribed on the article. I'm watching last night, and there's still this question mark or uncertainty of what's going to become of John Tavares and where is his fit. Again, up 3-0. Less than a minute to go, kind of carrying the puck through the neutral zone, wants to do a complete 360 in the neutral zone, turns the puck over, and it's right back. There's a few turnovers too in the last half of the game. Kypreos' co-host Bourne then chimed in about John Tavares' ice time, giving evidence that he's not been playing as much as he normally would be expected to. You look at his ice times against Montreal, where he played 18:48, but that was 6-on-5 for the last, 3 minutes of the game where he was out there. Then he plays 15:04 against New Jersey, plays 16:10 last night, and how many power plays? 4 power plays? You are watching his role be diminished in front of our eyes. He's becoming a third-line center. It's happening. Kypreos added a bit to Tavares' role right after. We already saw the brilliant goal in New Jersey where he shows in tight that he can still make good plays and shoot the puck on net. It was, if I'm not mistaken, 5-on-5. Last night he got a nothing burger off a backhand. It wasn't even him though, it was Phoenix Copley. It's called a catcher's mitt. Use it. Outside of that, it wasn't exactly a 5-on-5 display by John Tavares and his line mates, and that to me is a huge question mark. So, the folks on the show are talking about Tavares' reduced role. You want to talk about ice time? Well, okay, I got you about ice time. Take a look at John Tavares and his comparisons in ice time from last season to this season. Last year, John Tavares had almost 18 minutes of time on ice per game, and that was averaged throughout the entire year. The year before that, he had 17:39. The year before that, he had 18:04. He actually did have a pretty steady decline in ice time from the start of his Maple Leafs tenure to where it is right now, where he's averaging 16:41. Now, the sample size is only 3 games, so there's a chance for him to get even more minutes, but still, this is a guy who at this point in his NHL career has been sort of reduced, and they're labeling it now on Sportsnet Radio that he's kind of entering that third-line center territory. So, this is where you talk about other centers. Toronto has a new second-line center in Max Domi, who, alongside of Nylander and Bobby McMann, affectionately known as the BMW line, has been the bright spot for Toronto this season, combining for 12 points and a plus 17 so far already. The line has showed incredible chemistry and a knack for being able to put the puck in the back of the net quickly. Domi's been one of the best playmakers in the league the past few seasons, and Nylander's breakout season last year adds only momentum to this season, not to mention a new 8-year extension. Bobby McMahon has turned into a Cam Neely before our eyes under Craig Berube, and he's given new life to this team. So, this is where Justin Bourne goes out there and asks to Nick Kypreos. The response was a bit of perplexion here. I think if you were to move John Tavares, you would have done so in the offseason, whether or not you wanted to take 50% of that contract, that $11 million. Could you have found someone to bite for $6 or $7 million? I don't know. Firstly, okay, 50% of $11 million is not 6 or 7, it's 5.5. Let's just clear that up right here. I think it would get easier for a team that may want to be on the outside looking in, pushing towards January or February. Kypreos also brought up a good point regarding Tavares already being stripped of the captaincy and now being able to ask him about potential teams he wants to be traded to. You ask him about taking the C off his jersey. Now this would be a huge distraction, a major, major story. He's already got a chip on his shoulder. So with all this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of John Tavares getting traded? Do you think it's possible? Do you think around the trade deadline, if the Maple Leafs are super good, if they're doing really well, and John Tavares' ice time just keeps on getting lower and lower as the year goes on, do you think it's possible that a team on the outside looking in, a wild card contending team, looks at John Tavares and says, hey, that guy is not really all too utilized by Toronto. Could he be some sort of a target for 50% salary retained for $5.5 million a year? Heck, not even a year, like half a season, I guess you could say. And if Tavares was really a team player like we are led to believing, he could pull off the old Antoine Vermette. He could get traded, maybe win a cup, maybe go up against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs, maybe do something, and then in the free agency period of 2025, he can re-sign with Toronto once more, potentially at a much lower cap hit. Now, I think it's not really all too surprising to hear about the idea of Tavares signing a lesser than $11 million AAV deal. He's definitely not that caliber of player anymore, especially at 34. But if you really wanted to maximize what the Maple Leafs could get here, you still wanted to focus on building for the future, maybe there's a younger asset or two that they could add on in some sort of a John Tavares trade. Either that, or they trade John Tavares away for a guy that's signed on for more than a year or two, and then in the offseason, they sign Tavares again, and they bring him on and try to go for a run in 2026. Who knows? I mean, I get it, the last dance kind of situation is really apparent in Toronto now, especially with all the Mitch Marner conversation of last summer, so really it's kind of difficult to project, but if you wanted to force the Toronto Maple Leafs' hand, if you thought this idea was going to be even worth talking about, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Nick Kypreos and Bourne talking about the idea of a Tavares trade on their show? Do you think this is really ideal? Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's going to happen? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.